Every layer of security we've talked about across this series, your code, your infrastructure, your architecture, your policies can be completely undermined by one employee clicking one link or one phone call to the right person at the right moment. Today we're talking about social engineering, the common attack types, the psychological tricks behind why they work, and how to build awareness that actually changes behavior, not just checks a training box. Let's start with the definition. Social engineering is the practice of manipulating people into taking an action or revealing information that compromises security. It bypasses your firewalls, your scanners, your access controls, all of it, by going straight after the human being operating the system. And here's the uncomfortable truth. It works because it exploits things that make us good employees and good people in the first place. Wanting to be helpful, wanting to respond quickly to authority, wanting to avoid conflict or embarrassment, trusting that the person on the other end of an email or a phone call is who they say they are. Let's go through the most common social engineering threats one by one, starting with the one almost everyone has heard of: phishing. Phishing is a fraudulent message, usually email, designed to trick the recipient into clicking a malicious link, opening a malicious attachment, or providing sensitive information like login credentials. The classic signs people are trained to look for include poor spelling and grammar, generic greetings like "Dear Customer," and suspicious sender addresses. But here's the problem. Modern phishing has moved well past those obvious signs. Attackers now use proper grammar, real company branding, and email addresses that look almost identical to legitimate ones, sometimes off by a single character. What actually makes phishing effective is urgency and emotion. Your account will be suspended in 24 hours. Unusual sign-in activity detected. Verify now. Your payment failed. Update your information immediately. These messages are designed to trigger a fast emotional response before the slower, more analytical part of your brain has a chance to kick in and ask, wait, does this make sense? A practical habit to teach. When something creates a strong urge to act immediately, that urgency itself is a red flag. Legitimate organizations rarely require split-second action on security-sensitive requests. Pause and verify through a separate channel, not by clicking anything in the message itself, but by going directly to the website by typing the address or calling a number you already know is correct. Next, let's talk about spear phishing, which is phishing's more dangerous, targeted cousin. While regular phishing is sent broadly, spear phishing is crafted for a specific person or a small group, using information gathered about them, their job role, their colleagues, recent projects, even details from their social media profiles. Imagine an email that references a real project you're working on, comes from what looks like your actual manager's email address, and asks you to review an attached document related to that project. The specificity makes it feel legitimate, because why would a random scammer know about this internal project? This is why oversharing on social media and even on professional networking platforms can become a security issue. Attackers research targets before reaching out, and the more publicly available detail there is about your role, your team structure, and your projects, the easier it is to craft something convincing. Closely related is whaling, which is spear phishing, specifically targeting senior executives, CEOs, CFOs, and other high authority individuals. The reasoning is simple. Executives often have broader access, can authorize large financial transactions, and their assistants or teams may be conditioned to respond quickly to their requests without question. A whaling attack might impersonate a CEO, emailing the finance team with an urgent confidential wire transfer request, time for when the real CEO is known to be traveling, and hard to reach for verification. Now let's talk about business email compromise, often abbreviated as BEC, which has become one of the most financially damaging categories of social engineering. In a BEC attack, an attacker either compromises a real corporate email account or creates a convincing lookalike and uses it to manipulate employees, often in finance or accounts payable, into making fraudulent wire transfers or changing payment details for legitimate vendors. A common pattern: an attacker compromises or spoofs the email of a real vendor, then sends an invoice with updated bank account details, asking that future payments go to the new account. If accounts payable doesn't verify this change through an independent channel, a phone call to a known contact using a number from existing records, not from the email itself, the company ends up wiring real money directly to the attacker. This is why any change to payment details, banking information, or vendor contact information should always require out-of-band verification, confirming through a method completely separate from how the request arrived. Now let's move to vishing, voice phishing, which happens over the phone. This has become significantly more sophisticated with the rise of voice synthesis technology, which can clone a person's voice from just a short audio sample, sometimes pulled from a public video or social media post. Imagine receiving a call that sounds exactly like your CFO's voice, sounding stressed, asking you to process an urgent payment because they're in a meeting and can't do it themselves. Vishing also commonly targets help desks and IT support. An attacker calls, pretending to be an employee who's locked out of their account, often with some real details about that employee gathered beforehand, and pressures the help desk into resetting a password or providing access, bypassing normal verification procedures because the attacker sounds stressed, apologetic, and convincingly human. The defense here is having strict, non-negotiable identity verification procedures for any sensitive request made by phone, especially password resets, account access changes, or financial transactions, regardless of how urgent or how senior the caller claims to be. Next is smishing, which is phishing via SMS text message. These often impersonate delivery services, banks, or even internal IT with a link to a fake login page designed to capture credentials. Smishing can feel more trustworthy to people, specifically because we're less trained to be suspicious of text messages compared to email, and because phone screens make it harder to spot a suspicious URL. Now let's talk about pretexting, which is really the foundation underneath many of the attacks we've already discussed. Pretexting is the creation of a fabricated scenario, a pretext to engage a target and extract information or access. This could be someone calling and claiming to be from IT, needing to verify your password to fix an issue. someone posing as a new employee, asking a colleague for help navigating systems because they're still getting set up, or someone claiming to be an auditor or a vendor representative, requesting access to systems or documents. What makes pretexting effective is that it exploits social norms, helpfulness, deference to authority, and a desire to avoid seeming unhelpful or paranoid. The defense is cultural as much as procedural. It needs to be normal and acceptable for an employee to say, "Let me verify that and call you back," without feeling rude or like they're causing a problem. Now let's talk about baiting, which uses the promise of something appealing to lure a victim into a trap. The classic physical example is a USB drive left in a parking lot or a break room, labeled something enticing like confidential salary information or Q4 layoffs. Curiosity leads someone to plug it in, and the drive installs malware the moment it's connected. Digital baiting works similarly. Free downloads, too good to be true offers, or exclusive content links, all designed to get someone to click or download something malicious. The lesson here is straightforward but important. Never plug in unknown USB devices and treat unsolicited, too good to be true offers, digital or physical, with the same suspicion you'd apply to a stranger handing you an envelope and asking you to open it on their behalf. Next, let's talk about tailgating, sometimes called piggybacking, which is a physical social engineering technique. This is when someone without proper access follows an authorized person through a secure door, often by simply walking close behind them while carrying something like a box or a coffee tray that makes it awkward to ask them to badge in separately. Most people, faced with someone who looks like a colleague struggling with their hands full, will hold the door open. That instinct to be polite is exactly what's being exploited. The defense is a workplace culture where it's normal and expected for everyone, regardless of how senior they are or how legitimate they look, to badge in individually, and where employees feel comfortable politely asking an unfamiliar person to do so, without feeling like they're being rude or accusatory. Now let's talk about quid pro quo attacks, which involve offering something in exchange for information or access. A classic example: someone calls a large group of employees claiming to be from IT, offering free technical support or a software upgrade. Eventually, they reach someone with an actual ongoing IT issue, who's grateful for the help and willingly provides their credentials, or grants remote access to fix the problem. And finally, let's talk about watering hole attacks, which are a bit different from the others because they don't directly target an individual at all. Instead, attackers compromise a website that's known to be frequently visited by employees of a target organization, an industry forum, a trade publication, a vendor's portal, and plant malware there. When employees visit that legitimate, trusted site as part of their normal routine, they get infected without ever realizing they were the actual target. This one's harder to defend against through awareness alone, which is why it connects back to the technical controls we've discussed in other episodes. Things like keeping browsers and systems patched and using infrastructure level protections. So, with all of these threats laid out, What does effective social engineering training actually look like in practice? First, it has to go beyond a once-a-year video that people click through without watching. The most effective programs use ongoing, varied touch points, short reminders, real examples relevant to your industry, and periodic simulated phishing exercises that give people safe practice spotting and reporting suspicious messages. Second, it has to create a blame-free reporting culture. If someone clicks a phishing link or falls for a pretexting call, the absolute worst outcome is that they're too embarrassed or afraid to report it. The faster a security team knows about a successful social engineering attempt, the faster they can respond, reset credentials, check for further compromise, and warn others who might receive the same attempt. Punishing people for falling victim teaches people to hide it, which is the opposite of what you want. Third, training needs to be specific and relevant. Generic, don't click suspicious links. Advice is forgettable. Training that says, here's an actual example of the kind of email targeting our finance team, and here's exactly what to do if you receive something like this, sticks far better, because it connects to something people can actually picture happening to them. Fourth, build clear, simple verification procedures for high-risk actions and make sure people actually know them. Changing payment details, resetting passwords for sensitive accounts, granting building or system access. These should all have a documented, known process that includes independent verification, and employees should feel empowered to follow that process, even when someone on the other end is being pushy or claims to be in a hurry. Fifth, remember that social engineering training isn't just for technical staff. In many ways, the people most frequently targeted are in finance, HR, executive assistants, and front desk or reception roles. People who, by the nature of their jobs, are expected to be helpful, responsive, and trusting of incoming requests. These groups often need more frequent and more tailored training than the general employee population. To wrap up, social engineering remains one of the most effective ways to compromise an organization, precisely because it targets people instead of systems, and people are harder to patch than software. Phishing, spear phishing, whaling, business email compromise, vishing, smishing, pretexting, baiting, tailgating, quid pro quo, and watering hole attacks all share a common thread. They exploit normal human behavior, helpfulness, trust, urgency, and authority to bypass technical controls entirely. Building real resilience means ongoing, relevant training, a blame-free reporting culture, and clear verification procedures for sensitive actions. RiskRecap helps organizations design social engineering awareness programs tailored to their actual risk profile. Identify which roles and teams need the most focused attention, and track engagement and improvement over time as part of your overall risk picture.